Good evening and welcome to the September 10th, 2019 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. May I have a call to order? Roll call. Sorry. Roll call.
Alan Getty.
Here.
Ruben Sanchez.
Yes.
Kathleen Pittman.
Yes.
Mona Cart.
Yes.
James Edwards.
All right, we have a Pledge of Allegiance, I think by Berendo L. Is that correct?
There you go.
Good evening. We're from Berendo Elementary. I'm Liam. This is Riata, Leah, Jose Luis, Natalie, and Ben. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh my gosh, I salute the flag of the state of Mexico, the symbol of perfect vengeance of my cultures.
Every day at Berendo, I promise to be a leader by bringing responsibility, integrity, determination, and goodness to everyone. I promise to do my best.
Thank you. Glad to have you all here today. Good job there. Thank you. Leah. Thank you. Great job. Thank you for coming. Good job, sir. Good job. Great job. Thank you.
If you would remain standing for a moment of appreciation.
Years ago tomorrow, a tragic event occurred in the United States. I would like to talk again this evening, as I did last year at the same time, about the many heroes that appeared in different forms. Again, ordinary people who did extraordinary things on that day. So I would like to take a moment of appreciation to recognize our first responders, many of whom ran into, not away from, danger in order to help others selflessly. I'd also like to recognize and pause to appreciate those who've risked their lives, who gave their lives to rescue the many victims of the horrible event. I want to pause and appreciate the ordinary heroes who do extraordinary things for the students of the Roswell Independent School District. I, in my role, have the privilege of going into all of the school sites to conduct site visits and collaborations, and I get to witness firsthand the extraordinary actions our ISD's ordinary heroes perform. The principal who cries over a first grade student for whom she wants to do more despite the student's home environment. The assistant principal who noticed a student wearing the same shirt to school every day, who with her administrative team was able to provide him with several. The high school teacher who eats lunch with students in the classroom, providing them with a safe place to talk. The counselor who rode the Roswell Public Transit with the student in order to ensure that she was able to follow the path to and from home and school safely. The school secretary who hugs a hurt child, a scared child, a lonely child. The custodian who purchases out of his own pocket pizza every month to thank his student helpers and then sits with them to show his appreciation of their help. So together I ask that we share a moment of appreciation for these and the countless other ordinary heroes who, on a daily basis, perform extraordinary actions. Thank you.
Our invocation will be done by Dr. Pittman tonight.
Almighty God, we love you, and we love the children of the Roswell Independent School District. Thank you for each hero. Sometimes they're unsung heroes. Sometimes those wonderful things that people do for children, for love's sake, are unrecognized. Keep our children and our teachers and everyone here safe from harm. Guide us, direct us, help us to love our children and to teach them well. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Mr. Getty, there are no modifications to the agenda.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Have a second made by Ms. Kirk. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We will now have recognitions.
So there's only one listed on the agenda, but I want to welcome some very special guests to our meeting tonight. We actually have a bunch of education majors that are taking I guess their first education course. I don't know if it's your first or not, but it's Communication for Teachers class at ENMUR. And I'm excited that there are 22 people in this class.
Wow.
Hallelujah. But I just want to say a special welcome to you guys, and am just thrilled that you are seeking an education major. Come see us in a few years, and we'll have a place for you. So it's good to see that sizable group. We hear all the daunting stories and about, how many people are not going into education anymore. So to see you guys here is just a real special blessing, and we're just thrilled to know that this class is so full and you guys are off and started. And so we want to help you any way we can. So feel free to just reach out and ask, and we'll help any way we can. So thank you for being here. And then the second thing I want to do before I go to the recognition is I want to give just a phenomenal shout out to our district IT people. Holy smoke. Royce is going to give an update, a very brief update later in the meeting, but just to kind of give you a glimpse of the scope of what these guys have had to do. Number one, this was an attack that initiated on our internet, our network, at 12:01 Sunday morning. And those are purposefully chosen by hackers because they think nobody's paying attention and nobody's going to be responsive in time to do anything. But our guys got alerts, and they started working on it immediately. That was a holiday weekend. We have over 12,000 devices in this district, and we have 14 people in that department. And they have to lay hands on every single device in this district to be able to make sure that it's clean, that any contamination is moved to the side and contained before they can start the monumental effort of the repair. And I just want to give a shout out to those people for their hard work starting last Sunday morning that continued and continues to this day, and will continue for weeks to come probably. But they worked throughout the weekend just to be able to get us back up and running. And every day is a slow step towards progress. And I just want to thank them and recognize them tonight.
Yeah.
And then I have asked Mr. Britt Cooper, stand up, Britt, Britt was named the Athletic Director of the Year for the 5A level and by the NMAA, Coaching Association at NMAA. So I wanted to recognize him as our Athletic Director of the Year for 5A in New Mexico.
Okay, we will now have inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to speak?
Yes, sir, we have two.
Okay. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. Please do not discuss confidential personnel matters, including those of a disciplinary nature, regarding any RISD employee. This should be discussed with the superintendent or the employee's supervisor. Please self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. You may be given a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. If needed to accommodate a large number of speakers and maintain a reasonable meeting schedule, the time limit for all speakers may be shortened. No sharing of time is permitted. Public commentary and dialogue is only guaranteed during the public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. For the safety of yourselves and others, signs and placards are not permitted in the boardroom. However, you are invited to express your concerns during public forum or submit your concerns to the board in writing. I'm ready.
Our first one is Bobby Villegas.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Getty, school board members, and Superintendent McElroy. My name is Bobby Villegas. I live at 602 Estrellita, and I am a member of the Coalition for Equity and Fiscal Responsibility. Since you have the turf issue on the agenda, we would like for you to address the following questions. Number one, were school employees or school maintenance crews used to deliver the turf to high-level school employees? If so, was that legal? Number two, will the superintendent be obligated to reimburse the taxpayers monetarily for ignoring the state law and school board policy in giving away the turf? Number three, is the board considering an outside investigator to resolve this issue on the missing turf, particularly the turf that was supposed to go to New Mexico Military Institute? And number four is not part of the turf, but this is one of the questions we have. How does the board feel about the superintendent's decision to end Principal Ruben Bolaño's career at Roswell High School? Was it for political reasons, discrimination, or just plain racism? Because we can prove to you that he did not have an inferior performance. We have a coalition that has investigated. We wanted to see what it was about. We really wanted to know if Mr. Bolaños had done wrong. And the performance part, he did not. If he did something on a personal basis, that's another story. The other thing we've established at the coalition is we've established an anonymous call line. The number is 575-637-2811. It's for teachers that might be bullied by principals, for parents who feel they're being discriminated, for administrators who feel they're being moved or demoted for any good reasons. So that is the phone number for us. And I do want to address the young students. You know, I'm sorry. This is the politics. This is the politics of being a teacher. And sometimes we have a school board. These guys dedicate themselves time and free and all that. It happens. But even at that, when somebody does something wrong, or you feel it's wrong, you have to step up to the plate. It's important that you remember that. And I apologize again, the politics of this issue, but you're going to get into it. You might as well learn what it's all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pauline Ponce.
Mr. President, members of the board, superintendent, one of the pillars of our coalition is fiscal responsibility. And to that end, under the provisions of the New Mexico Freedom of Information Act, I'm requesting the following information for the 2018-2019 school year. The percentage of all at-risk categories identified by the Yazzie Martinez versus New Mexico lawsuit, which include low-income students, Native American students, English language learners, and students with disabilities, hereafter referred to as at-risk. Per school, per department, and any other forms of data compilation of at-risk students and information. Total funding allocated to the district by the state, the Yazzie Martinez compliance, or federal resources to address at-risk students. Total funding amounts allocated by the district to individual schools to at-risk students identified by funding source. Total funding's amount allocated by the district to individual schools by departments to address at-risk students identified by funding source. What programs or individual school classes were eliminated that would have addressed at-risk students? Any other information or funds that would address at-risk students? And also, I wrote one in because as I was reviewing this and thinking about it, I forgot to ask one of the most important. What were the funds used for? Thank you.
Thank you. Huh, interesting. All right, sorry, I got sidetracked there. Let me get back on my paper. All right, we will now have approval of minutes for the regular board meeting, August 13th, 2019.
Mr. Getty, I do recommend approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of August 13th, 2019.
Are there any corrections, deletions to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Pittman and a second made by Ms. Kirk.
Sounds good.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We will now have the consent agenda.
I recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Is there any discussion?
Question, does that include all of this material in the next few pages?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, I just wanted to know that.
Yeah, it's the
It looks different.
page,
August bills, September bills, bars.
Right.
yeah, those few pages there.
With no attachments because they couldn't be uploaded.
Right.
If you have it, this is weird for us. We usually do all this online. We actually have to have paper in front of us. We don't know how to use paper. It's a new
At
thing.
a loss.
All right, that was it? Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second made by Dr. Pittman. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We will now have action items.
All right. So the first action item is the approval of the Roswell High Advanced Choir's trip to Corpus Christi, Texas, April 29th through May 3rd of 2020. The choirs will experience culture and features of the area, see what it's like to stay on or near the ocean. In addition, they will perform a concert on the deck of the USS Lexington Aircraft Carrier Museum in Corpus Christi Harbor.
Nice.
And the choirs will travel by chartered bus. It will be approximately 80 students and 10 adults to make the trip. And I do recommend approval of the Roswell High Advanced Choir's trip to Corpus Christi, Texas.
and they're not here for a sample?
Apparently not. Maybe they'll have to like try out on us or something.
I think they probably will later.
Give us an audition.
Yes.
All right, is there any other discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Sanchez. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second made by Dr. Pittman. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. We have approval of the Goddard High School band trip to San Antonio for the Lone Star Showcase of Music, May 6th through the 10th, 2020.
Yeah, so they're requesting permission to take approximately 60 students, 2 directors, and 10 chaperones to San Antonio, May 6th through 10th, 2020. While there, they will perform in the Lone Star Showcase of Music, which is both a music competition, which they won last time they went, and an educational opportunity for the students to receive feedback on their performance. While there, they'll have an opportunity to visit the San Antonio Zoo, the historic Riverwalk, and Six Flags. Trips are a great opportunity for the students to represent the Roswell schools out of state and show a wide audience both the quality of their education and the quality of their character. And so I do recommend approval of the the Goddard High School band trip to San Antonio for their Lone Star Showcase of Music.
Okay, is there any discussion?
You want to add anything?
Only if you guys have questions.
Oh, well, you're welcome to come up
well,
and
welcome
tell
to
us
come up
about
and-
it. Yeah,
Yeah. You're welcome to brag on your kids.
absolutely.
Hi there. So, yeah, we did this competition a couple of years ago and did win, and it is a wonderful opportunity. All these trips are a great chance for the kids to get out and for a lot of the students, and I share this just in case there's anybody else in here who has an opportunity to take students anywhere. And I actually, the Roswell High trip to Corpus Christi is actually, they're doing a trip that I've done twice now with the band students. And it's pretty amazing to see 18-year-olds look at the ocean for the first time. Or see kids who have never seen a building taller than what used to be the Bank of America building. And it's such an opportunity to provide them. With those experiences and those cultural experiences, we take kids who the furthest they've ever been is Artesia, 800 miles to see the ocean or to see a true big city in a national landmark. And so it's a wonderful opportunity. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for doing that. That's a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
It's worth it.
Absolutely.
work.
This is the highlight.
Yes,
Yeah, very
absolutely.
cool.
So, but
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Dr. Pittman. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. We have approval of the, that's funny. Mine says 2010, 2020. I'll say 2019, 2020 district calendar revision.
So,
It says 2000.
after approving the district calendar and printing it and distributing it widely across the district and in the community, we found that the February 12th parent conference date is actually the 80th day. Is it the 80th or 120? 120th, sorry, 120th day, Lord. 120th day transportation count date set by state statute. So we cannot do parent conference, and they won't let you go the 11th or the 13th. You have to do it on the 12th. So I took this to the Superintendent's Advisory Council in the August meeting and brought that to their attention. They were the ones that helped create the district calendar for this year and asked for their recommendation. They recommend moving the parent conference date to February 5th, the Wednesday before. The other option would be to move it to the week after, but they're out on that Monday, and they felt like having Monday and then Wednesday would be problematic. So they opted and do recommend moving the parent conference date to February 5th from February 12th. And I do recommend that alteration to our district calendar.
Any discussion?
Well, I noticed on here, it's midnight weeks, so it won't affect our reporting date nor the turnaround for report cards, because I know it's very difficult when it ends, when the midnight weeks ends or when the grading period ends, to turn around and have report cards issued on such a short turnaround. So, but it's midnight weeks, so that should not be as difficult, or having the date reporting period shortened, so.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually a very strategic placement of both of our parent
Right.
conference dates.
Right.
Because the teachers wanted to meet with parents before a student had an opportunity to fail.
Right.
So that a parent could then intervene with their child, and they didn't want to wait till the end of the 9 weeks, because that's too late. And so they wanted to make sure that it was good notification for parents, and so they felt like that would be a good shift to go to the 5th.
Okay. Anything else? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Kirk, do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Sanchez. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Approval of the fiscal year 2019-2020 obsolete district real property disposal and inventory deletion.
So it's recommended that the board move to approve the school district's fiscal year 2019-20 donation of 5 rolls of the Wool Bowl synthetic turf playing surface to the New Mexico Military Institute.
Any discussion?
No, it was pretty complete in our board packet, and I was going to make a comment about the, without having my computer, it's very difficult. I'm not used to paper. So it was under $5,000, am I correct?
Yes.
So that's, okay. But there is a dollar amount attached to it. Oh, here's the rest of, oh, yeah, I see. So, a meeting is held September the 10th. Fines include the hereby part of the current resale value of $5,000 more is worn out, unusable, or obsolete to the extent that no longer economically safe. Okay, for distribution as prescribed by law. Okay. So that's all we need then to take care of the donation to
Yes.
the institute. Okay.
Yes,
Yep. I think we're considering it obsolete, correct?
yes.
Okay.
But with a minimum of $5,000. Am I getting that correct? Is that what we're looking at?
Of less than, so
It's
obsolete.
valued at less
Zero.
than $5,000.
Okay.
Yeah, of less than.
And I think that is a preset level. Am I correct, Mr. Cole? Is that a preset level?
So yes,
Anything less than $5,000, correct?
yes.
I'm reading this. I may be reading it backwards, but it says hereby make a part hereof has a current resale value of 5,000 or more.
Of less than 5,000.
Less than 5.
It says less than 5,000.
Not what she's reading. This is the wrong thing, though.
Oh, this one is right.
Yeah, that's not the
I
right
was
thing.
reading out of the board, but I need a computer.
I know, I'm telling you.
This one up here,
Okay,
yeah,
it's all right. It's fine. We got it right. We got it straight.
okay.
Anything else?
So how did we come about that $5,000? That's just
It-
what,
Again, it's just, we have to submit it to the state for a set level of X amount of dollars or less. It's not that we're saying it was worth that, it was worth less than that.
Because it was warm.
Somewhere less than that, because it was worn unusable. For the intent of keeping it for safety purposes at the Wool Bowl.
okay. And so we're just making this legal now and
Yes,
sending turf from our ISD to the institute?
yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
They get some use out of it.
I hope so too. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Made by Mr. Sanchez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Pittman. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We will now have reports. Dr. McElroy?
So I have several things that I want to report on tonight. The first thing that I'd like to do, and we're gonna take one down and pass it around here. Get this one to Mr. Edwards. So, I did, inform you last month that, we were working on the District 90-day plan. Oh, we do?
Yeah.
James didn't give one.
Alan, you
Sorry.
need one?
We'll give one to
Oh.
James now.
Yeah, we,
Okay.
yeah.
I won't.
Okay. So, in the District 90, and I apologize that they're all in different formats, but we couldn't fix it this week. So, they all look different. But there are 4 key components that were identified, in our, original visioning, back last semester, that also then came out in our district strategic planning. And so under each of those thematic areas, our focus areas are equity, communication, personnel, sorry, it wasn't titled, personnel, I'm gonna label that real quick, and collaboration. As being the things that we're really, that we feel like are key components to helping the district achieve our vision for our ISD graduate. So the desired outcome in the equity, you can see we have specific critical actions listed. We have dates of when we're gonna start that work and when we need to have it finished by, what that action is. Resources that may need to be utilized to do that, people who are going to be responsible for addressing that. We've also set up a time where every 30 days we are meeting together to update one another on the progress that each team has made. The central administration administrators, that's directors, assistant superintendents, coordinators, are all on a team. They came up with the plan, they came up with what their goals are, what they felt like the most strategic actions were to address the issues, and let them go at it. So you can see that the collaboration is a big deal this year, of course, because we're really working to give our teachers the opportunity to work with one another. But it's not just our teachers, it's our principals, it's our central administration staff as well. And so that of course is a priority. And how do we do that well? And how do we make sure that we're making the best use of that time so that it is most productive and has the greatest impact on learning for kids? Every one of these. Personnel, you know, we had great results from the efforts that we did last year. We want to continue to improve on that. With 22 kids coming up, sorry, you're not kids, 22 young adults going through an education prep program, you know, we want to be able to attract those future educators, and how do we need to do that, and what are some strategic things we can do to make that happen? Because our goal, of course, is to have a highly qualified teacher in every single classroom, that every single child has access to a high quality, highly qualified educator in their classroom. We don't want teaching, you know, getting a good teacher to be a lottery. You know, we want, it doesn't matter. We want every kid, it doesn't matter whose class you walk into, that they're high quality. Communication, again, has been identified as a priority for this board. It is for our district. You know, you can bulldoze people with too much information, but how do you share the right pieces of information, and how do you do that well, so that it is received well also. Communication doesn't happen in a one-way venue. It is two-way, and it's as much about what is heard as what is given. And so really working very diligently on that. And then, of course, the equity thing is just, it is paramount to, again, ending the educational lottery of, am I going to get a good teacher or not? We have to make sure that every classroom has that. And so we have some really good prospects in finding a consulting group that can capture that data for us. We want somebody that's outside, simply because we want objective eyes. We don't, we would look at, or people would perceive that we would look at our data as in a biased way, and we don't want that. We want to see warts and all, because you cannot fix anything, you cannot address anything if you're not able to identify it. And so this particular 90 days is the first step in being able to identify issues, both large and small. And then how then can we go about addressing those and making it better for every kid in our district. So that is our district 90-day plan.
So I have a question. So you had, I think it was last month at the board meeting, you had indicated that you wanted to secure a team to come in and do a communications audit?
Equity audit.
Equity audit. So are they going?
That's what this 90-day plan is all about. It's about identifying who that consulting group can be, because we want someone that's qualified to do that. We do have some prospects for that.
Have they come in and started working?
Not yet, no.
Oh, okay.
Because I wanted to present this to the board so that you were aware prior to contacting anybody. I know Ms. Cole has worked with a group that she has worked very well with and thinks very highly of. We're gonna talk to them and see if they're able to do this kind of work for us. They work in New Mexico extensively, which is a bonus, I think. So we also, I really don't have any idea of what the cost would be. And so we're going to have to get a projection from them, because if it's over the $60,000, we'll have to go to an RFP. And because that's procurement law. And, well, professional services isn't necessarily, but, we want to make sure that we follow all of that hook, line, and sinker. So, but we're going to get a measure of what that might cost us.
Okay, so in my previous life, when we, because we did audits like this, but we did them internally, and they were led by the superintendent, because that's what we hire you for, is to do that. So you don't want to put a team in place? To me, that would seem the most logical, because your staff, they know the district better than an outside firm.
Again,
You may be biased.
we are being highly scrutinized. And quite frankly, this community does not trust the current administration or me. And so I think, yes, I could do that, but if we are going to truly address the issues that have been brought before this board and the rest of the community, I think we owe it to those that are raising the flag to do it in as an unbiased, professional manner as we can. I would, I don't want, if we're gonna undertake this task, because this is a monumental task, if we're gonna undertake this task, I don't want someone questioning the validity of what is found, either good or bad, because I was involved in it. And I'm just gonna say, I feel like, it would be in the district's best interest if it were an outside objective party.
And I understand what you're saying. My concern is when I heard that $60,000 mark, if it's over that, I just think, oh my gosh, that's a computer lab. That's 2 computer labs in our schools. Oh my goodness, that's almost a teacher. So that kind of hurts my ears for our buildings.
Well, and the thing of it is, you know, I don't have any earthly idea how much it'll cost.
Right.
So it's something that we're looking at, that we're gonna look at very seriously, and then we're gonna have to figure out, are we gonna get the return on investment? I mean, we have to look at that. But at the same time, I think there are some big issues out there that must be addressed, and you know, you cannot continue to stick your head in the sand and pretend it's gonna go away. It's not. And, you know, if we want the community to have trust in this district, because I feel like they should be able to trust the district and that they can.
Definitely.
But the reality is there's a faction of this community that does not. And so I think we must address that. I think it is incumbent upon us to address that in as unbiased way as we possibly can. Because here's the thing, it may come back that, you know, we do have some practices that are ill-conceived. It may come back that we do have some policies that have some inherent bias to them. We've got to fix that. And it's, you know, as an insider, that's going to be called to question on whether or not you really dug deep enough and looked hard enough
Or
and
listened to.
objectively enough.
And I apologize, Mr. Sanchez, you were going to comment?
Oh, I was just gonna say that we don't technically know the cost yet, so I think if we dip our feet in this and just see what it entails, and like you said, the bang for the buck, that's gonna be the biggest deal. So when it comes to the board, what are we getting for it?
That's right.
You know, is it in depth? Is it worth it? Because yes, this is district funds, and we want to make sure we're spending it adequately and in the right manner. So, you know, this could end up being really, really good. It's, you know, like you said, it's going to show some positives. It's going to show some negatives, but we need to know. We need to know now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
With the changes that we're making district-wide, this is part of that process. I think the time of, let's give it 5 years, let's come up with a 5-year plan or whatever that might be, is gone.
No, because we
Because
have
the
kids in
seniors this
school
year-
today.
Seniors
That's right.
this year, they deserve it. Juniors next year, they deserve it. A kindergartner deserves it. So we need to act on it now. And
Absolutely.
so this is just the beginning. It's not saying we're gonna do it, but it's gonna, you know, we've gotta talk. We're gonna have the discussion on, is this what we need? So, and then the community is gonna be involved in it also, so
That's right.
we can get their input. So that, I think this is gonna be a good thing.
That's right.
But we've gotta try, and then we'll see. And if it's gobs and gobs of money, we may have to come up with Plan B.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
I'm with you. We need to make sure we're spending it right.
Any other questions on the 90-day planning?
No, thank
So
you.
I gave you a copy of that, so you can look at that at your leisure.
In our spare time.
Yeah, in your spare time. Unfortunately, tonight, we were not able to provide a personnel report because we can't get it off of Visions. It's not just held in Visions, but Brian has to do a lot of work with it to be able to get it to what you see. So we will be presenting the personnel report for this month at next month's meeting. Because we know that we'll be up and running again pretty soon. So with that, I would like to ask Royce to come forward and give you a brief update on the cyber attack that we were victim of in the last week and a half.
Mr. President, Superintendent, members of the board, we were victim of a malware attack. It was a 0-day virus that, so basically there were no definitions for it. It did affect some of our core services. We did detect it early, and so we shut down everything so we could contain. So we have to contain, then we have to eradicate it, then we restore, and then we monitor. We're at the position right now, we're in between exterminating the problem and restoring items. So we hope to have the phone systems back up by the end of the week. It looks like we're probably going to have Power School up tomorrow. And again, you know, as we do these things, you know, these are loose timelines because we don't know what we run into as we get in there. Because once we get in, we still have to monitor and make sure that there are no traces of this, that there's nothing else on the network. And it is a very tedious process to go to every machine and make sure it appears clean and that we identify the ones that are infected. And we have to take the time to do it because if it gets back in, we get to do this all over again if it's something like that. The techs, as mentioned before, have been tirelessly working on all this nonstop. They just have, been troopers to get it done. I can't sing their praises enough. We've all just jumped together. We go out to schools. We try to identify that. So we did get Chromebooks up for most of the schools, maybe all of them. I know we had certain issues. We were just trying to work through those things. Like I said, Power School should, we're hoping to have that back up tomorrow. We're really shooting to have the phones up by Friday. And of course, after we're done and we get everything, restored, and then we're monitoring again to make sure nothing else pops up, we're going to, of course, then work with probably the same vendors we're working with to do a deep analysis and see, what we can do to maybe fill gaps or strengthen what we have. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
I have a comment. I've been reading up on this on the internet in my house.
Oh, I did want to mention one thing. The way that this does get in, the primary way that this gets in is through phishing or spear phishing attacks. So they were successful in that manner. So.
Yes, and this is a common problem.
Yes.
I believe since July, we've had a number of school districts over the country have the exact thing, and I believe it was Louisiana declared a state of emergency because they were attacked so badly.
Well, it's important to remember that this is not a dirty little hacker hiding in a dark room anymore. These
Not
are
a high school student.
these are nation-state attacks. I mean, and so you have issues like that come up that literally you have nations behind these attacks. So we had backups. We've restored from backup. We had the vision system on a separate network, and so it was unaffected. So there were a lot of good things in it, and I'm sure that we'll find things that we want to do better once we get a chance to analyze it. So,
is there a definition for a spear fisher?
Yes, I can tell you. Well, phishing is anytime you receive an email and they're just trying to get your information. They're like, oh, you want some money, and all we need is your name and your account number. Right. Or they'll send something. It looks just like Bank of America until you need to redo your password, and you click it and you go. Spear phishing is different. What they do is they'll pretend like they are the superintendent, or they'll pretend like they're Chad Cole, and they will say, hey, I need you to get this done real quick. And, so they put pressure on somebody who's underneath them. That person feels pressured to just get it done, and they click on it or they do something like that. And so, really, no matter what we put in here, the best thing that we can do is educate our users so they understand, so we really show them how to identify what's fake and what's not fake. And as you've seen, there's been more things we've added, specifically to fight these things. The warning that we've put on, I put a warning on, so you would see if you did get something from the superintendent and it had that warning on it, you knew it was fake. Immediately you know it's fake. So we try to do things like that, and that's definitely one piece of the puzzle that we definitely need to addressed. We need to make sure that we train everybody and that we, really drill it into their head, because these things don't change, and there's nothing we can do to stop them from sending an email and trying to, probe. So those are the big issues that we have to deal with. So.
And I'll just throw in, if you get a funky email that's asking you to do some crazy things and trying to put pressure on you, look at the end of the IP address. The front end may look familiar. The back end may look a little squirrely, and it shouldn't. So those are things we need to do.
That's the very first thing, like what Mr. Cole's talking about here is, like, if you get an email and it may look like, it may say Ann Lynn McElroy, but on the end, it's like
ISD.
.ru, which is Russia. So you have to look at those things. But that again comes with education and things that we can put in place to really amp up what we try to train the users to do. We constantly, try to drive it in not to click things that we will never ask for passwords or accounts, and nobody who is ever valid will. They won't. Microsoft is not going to call you. They're not going to automatically pop up on your screen and say, "Hey, we detected you had a problem."
Like
if you give us your credit card number, and we'll fix everything for you. So.
A big part of this is the training aspect, and that's a real strong push with our financial auditors. I know school districts and government are a little bit behind the curve in terms of IT security. We're getting better, and that's not to say that that's not a knock on our IT staff. We do a wonderful job, but one of the things we want to look at is having an IT hacker that works for us and tries to hack our people, and our people learn from those experiences as we go. That's the way industry typically approaches it. And Royce and I have had lots of conversations here in the last couple of weeks, and
how to prevent this.
Yeah, how to prevent this, and so our security is it's a balancing act, and I think Royce will tell you the same thing. We can definitely amp up the security, but then access becomes more difficult for our teachers, our staff, and they want access to those lessons and things that they can bring into the classroom, and that's understood. So we've talked about some of those things, and we'll probably be approaching with some ideas on that and creating that balance that gives us a little more security.
I can tell you that I know Gadsden schools within the last 6 months had an attack similar to this. They were down for quite some time. Taos schools had one about 6 months ago, and they actually ended up paying to them to get files decrypted. I want to keep saying unencrypted, but decrypted. So, we have great people that have redundant backup systems that save our bacon on that, basically. So I do appreciate your diligence in your department.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, for everything you do. Yeah, it stinks that this
It is the new
happened to
world.
us, but
It is.
it's not
It's
just us.
just remember that you have to really analyze emails. They're very sneaky.
And
They're
thank
very
you for
sophisticated.
reminding us.
Yes. So.
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Royce.
Yeah,
I'm
we all
excited
love
to hear about it.
technology until it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So,
Yay, tech team.
yes, and so the next report is, LJ came and presented at the last board meeting, and he told you at that time that he was doing the 20 days of hardcore, going to every single school in 20 days and doing the required emergency drills. And so that finished on Friday. And so wanted to give him an opportunity to give you an update on what we have learned over the course of those 20 days, other than maybe not to schedule them in 20 days, maybe?
You're
It was
probably
a big task.
exhausted,
It was
huh?
that.
President Getty, Superintendent McElroy, board members, I appreciate this opportunity again. Again, last month I got to come talk with you, and we talked about Senate Bill 147, which was a state mandate that said all schools had to have 4 drills within the first month, 2 fire, 1 active shooter, and 1 evacuation. So we had a plan when I came last time, and like Dr. McElroy said, we finished it on Friday, and it was quite an effort. We had everybody from several of the agencies, the Roswell Police Department, Chaves County Sheriff's Department, NMMI Police, Eastern Mexico Police, New Mexico Game and Fish, State Police, we had them all.
You can slow down, we're not on the time.
Oh, okay. I'm in that
He
pace.
just talks like that.
Oh, Lee, okay, let me slow down. So we had a bunch of help, a lot of the principals, teachers. You know, on a given day, we're looking at throughout the schools, this drill impacted about 12,000 people. And so it was a huge function that we had. It was really good to have one person overseeing it. I don't think we've ever had that before. And I got to go to every drill. I missed 1 drill out of all of them. And overall, I got to see where we were at as far as a school. And I prepared a report for you, very simple. There's lots of intricate details in it that we could get into, but this is kind of an overview. And when we look at the drills, the first thing we need to look at, and that's what the first page talks about, is there's really 2 types of drills. We usually lump them together as emergency drills, but when you look at it, you have to break it into safety and security. And we talked about that the other day. Safety is dealing with a non-living threat, that's like fire, and then security is a living threat. And we deal with those totally different. And that's the way we look at it. When you go to the fire drills, we are spot on. There are some schools here in Roswell that are record time. You hit that fire alarm and they're literally out in about a minute. And the problem with that, and this is what we saw overall throughout the schools, is we have been so ingrained with safety and not security that we're having individuals just race out of the school because they heard a fire alarm. And the sad point about that is the fact that today, one of our biggest threats is security and school shootings. And as soon as the fire alarm goes, the kids are so ingrained to just take off that they're out of there, and we're not looking for that security threat. In the last 80 years, no kids have been killed in school fire, but in the last 20, we've had hundreds in school violence. So that is our biggest threat that we're facing. And when kids do that, it's really hard. We're trying, for years and years, we pushed them to make this record time to get out, and now we're trying to pull them back just a little bit. We're wanting them to look first before they go into the hallways, make sure there's not a threat. And even before they exit the building. Different tactics as far as leaving doors open. We used to shut doors when we left. But now if I got to go into a lockdown because there's a shooter, now we got to have that. So a lot of the things we're starting to change. It's very hard to untrain and then retrain. And that's kind of where we're at with the safety drills. They're doing phenomenal. The schools look good. Fire department went with us to all the schools and inspected all the systems, and we're good. Everything looks good. There was just a few minor things we work on throughout the district, but we're getting those fixed case by case. And then as far as the security drills, we look at that, and this is probably where we're lacking most, and this is just across the nation. Security has always taken kind of a back seat to safety, and we're really seeing it starting to come to the forefront. The Walmart shooting. Walmart was all about safety prior to that day, and now when you walk into Walmart, you see a security guard. We're starting to see that shift, that it's okay to start putting effort into security, because we sure don't want to pay the price if we don't. Security drills, they look good. Law enforcement helped me with all these, and we went through them all. Quality, we went through all of them very well. Again, we don't have the security effort just yet. That push is starting to come. We're trying to explain to people that, yes, safety is important, but security is just as important, and we have to put forth that effort. Several things that we looked at is we don't necessarily have a security system in our schools just yet. We have safety systems in all of them, and they're working great. We need to work toward a security system in our schools so that we can alert the teachers. We don't have alert systems yet, and we need to be able to do that. Most of the time we use an intercom, and it usually is next to the secretary at the front desk. If that's jeopardized, we're trying to figure out a different way of alerting everybody. So simple things we can do, and that's one of them. Radio communication with first responders. That was a big one. Our school staff couldn't talk to our law enforcement officers when they were in the school. And there's some radios that are out there, but most of them will be on the school radio and not necessarily contacted with law enforcement. And that would be a good thing to have communication between the two. Again, most of our efforts are centered around safety, and we really just have to put the equal emphasis on safety and security. One thing we hadn't thought about, again, a lot of this, we don't want to dial down safety. I don't want to put safety as a second seat to it, but they need to be equal. And one of the things we found was the fact that something we would never think about was we've put these security vestibules into our school, and they have a purpose, but we found that just inside the door is usually a fire pole. And many of your school shooters will pull that fire pole, and then you have hundreds of kids coming out. In several of our schools, we could walk in and nobody even see us, pull that fire pole and head to the back of the school, and literally teachers would be handing us hundreds of kids. So something as simple as removing that one fire pole out of the building is huge when we look at security. So overall, your schools did great. Your teachers, tremendous effort. We didn't have any issues with anybody not participating. It was full participation all the way through to the end, so they did a great job. Law enforcement and fire department did a great job helping us. And about the only thing we see is we just got to put a little more effort into security. So, any questions?
Well, oh, go ahead.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
It's just a curious question. You talk about fire poles. Are they even necessary anymore?
We're talking about that. The fire marshal right now, you got your brand new school going up, Del Norte, and they're actually talking about not having any fire poles. The systems are so advanced that they don't even need human intervention,
Because we have
and we're
smoke
seeing
detectors.
that they cause more harm than good. So there's a good chance that your newest school coming out will not have fire poles.
I can tell you as all of our principals sitting in here, we had multiple times, we had kids pulling those things randomly. So I don't think that would hurt anybody's feelings if that were the case to eliminate them. And I saw all these nods, yeah, as one
pulled
thing
one
that
once.
you had
Did you?
mentioned.
I was 8. It was great.
We let
I
some of
hope
your
you
teachers
got in
pull them this
trouble.
time, and they enjoyed the heck out of it. They'd never done that before.
So I had asked you a question
Yes,
during
ma'am.
our training, which was incredible. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate the
learned so
opportunity.
much from you. And here lately, every time we have any kind of shooting, whether it be in the community or in our schools, that's when I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for all of us, we get flooded with phone calls from our constituents wanting to know how we're going to keep the kids safe. So I really appreciated learning about Alice, learning about the difference between safety and security, and I would challenge the school board, this district, and Dr. McElroy to look into School Guard as that one communication piece that you're saying.
Yes, ma'am, the alert
and I
system.
realize we'd probably have to put it out to RFP, but you know, how can we put a dollar amount on our kids? Our kids are the most important. If we want to spend money, that's where we need to spend it, is with our
Without
children.
a doubt, yes, ma'am.
I will say that one of the, one of the things that LJ's noted here, I think is what I gave you last month on the radio system that communicates with law enforcement, that was part of the PSCOC capital outlay, if I remember correctly, and that was from input with our first responders, that they recognized a need for that with the schools to be able to have the radios that communicate
With
around the
them.
schools, but with them as well. And so, you know, that is one step closer to addressing some of the issues. So it's good to know we're heading in the right direction.
We definitely are. We're moving forward. It's slow, but we're getting there. Every day's better.
Well, we're very blessed. Thank you
very
much.
for
Appreciate it.
doing
Thanks.
that, LJ.
And Mr. President, that is the end of my reports.
All right, we have some board communication tonight. Ms. Kirk, you asked for a couple items to be in the agenda, so we're going to let you start with, you go ahead and do A and B that you have on there. And,
I just have a B and a 1 and a 2.
oh, you do? Discussion to encourage district transparency, if you would discuss that.
Okay, so
And then the next one.
I have been pushing for district transparency. That has been an issue, an ongoing issue. So I have asked that we continue that effort. And along that line, a couple of months ago when all this blew up, I contacted the board president and I asked that I have access to our school board lawyer. We have a lawyer on call for us. And having called him because I needed direction, I found out that we had no information. We weren't told as a board that about the removal of the turf and what was going to happen to it. I didn't have a contract in my hand. I had never seen a contract about the turf. And that kind of, I don't even know if any of us did. Have you seen a contract about the turf? No. Any of us?
Well, we did a contract to put the new turf in. It had a removal in.
Okay, I haven't even seen that one. And
yeah, we had that at the board meeting maybe 3 months ago.
That was about 3 months ago.
okay, but I don't recall the specific language in it. So anyway, having said that, wanting the transparency, and when I made the phone call, I got the information. Our lawyer was very thorough, and I felt very comfortable. But then I got slammed by some fellow board members about being transparent. And that is absolutely not what I want. I want us to be transparent. If we have a question, I want us to feel comfortable making that phone call, asking that hard question. That's when we don't have to worry about what our community is saying, is when we are transparent, when we do make those conversations, have those conversations with each other. We get the communication from the superintendent to the board members to our community, because you're the first one to call me. You're calling me, you're texting me, you're showing up at my door with the questions. So if we want to stay out of the public court, if we're transparent, that's the best way to do it. Through transparency and through just being honest with each other and not having those issues and not trying to cover up. To me, that's what it looks like. That is my opinion. No one else's, just mine. So again, I really ask that we look at transparency and make that our goal, board, to be transparent. So then the second thing
Can
I
we
have.
continue on that one
Yeah,
before we
well,
move on?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
ahead.
So, yes, I agree with you 110% on transparency. I mean, that's 101 role when it comes to the role of the board. One thing I think that we need to probably clarify or maybe ask on is when it comes to transparency, if we have questions and concerns regarding turf, then I think we should probably have questions and concerns regarding the material coming out of Del Norte that's being torn down right now. So where do we draw the line? Do we need to know where the 2x4s are going? Do we need to know where the bricks are going? Do we need to know where the nails are going? So, you know, this is part of the process. You know, if it was part of a construction material, where do we draw the line? Because this is the calls that I'm getting are turf, 2x4s, light fixtures. I think we probably need to understand where we draw the line on what's what and where we stay out of it as a board. Because there's also differences between transparency and then phishing also. I've also got concerns of people calling and phishing and trying to pull information from people, trying to put on their own investigation, asking people questions on what did you see, how was it there, whatever, and that's not the role of a board member. The role of a board member is not to investigate, not to get into this type of stuff. It's to answer questions from the community, and then if they have a question or concern, then bring that to the superintendent, not to dig, not to turn into an investigator. That is not the role of a board member, period.
Absolutely agree with you, and that's why I did not. That's why I went straight to Mr. Ortiz, our school board lawyer. So having said that, Dr. McElroy, would you speak to the demolition, the retirement of stuff at Del Norte that
So that is.
Mr. Sanchez spoke of?
That is an interesting question because when I began talking with A.J. Bauer, right, Chad?
Yes.
Who is our primary auditor with CRI about this whole issue last month, or however long ago it was, year ago it seems. That was one of the things he brought up to me, is that there is some question from the state auditor's office that he said that the state auditor is actually getting a little perturbed because districts are not doing what he thinks is procedurally what we're supposed to do. And so it kind of begs the question, you know, we are getting ready. You know, I don't know if y'all been by Del Norte, but we've got steel in the air. It's pretty cool to go by and see it. But, you know, we're going to, come next summer, we're going to be demolishing part of that old building. And so one of the questions that I will have during our training, our administrator training with AJ on Thursday on this very topic, is, so prior to demolition, do we need to remove that off of our asset list? Because that's what it's basically, that's what he was insinuating. So we're gonna have to get more clarification on that, because that's a real change from what has been done in the state of New Mexico by anybody, by any school district. But that's what he was insinuating to me. And so, so yes, we're gonna have to get some clarification, because if that's what this, you know, we're at the whim of whoever's in office. And if that is what Mr. Colon expects, then of course we wanna meet that standard. But we gotta know that that's the standard too. And that's gotta be clearly defined for us. So we're gonna try to get some clarification on that.
And there's that communication piece.
Mm-hmm.
So just like with the turf situation, from what I understand, part of the contract was that the contractor would remove that and dispose of it, do whatever, right?
Yes.
Put it in landfill, give it to NIMI, offer it to Joe Schmo running down the street too. So if that's part of the contract when it comes to the demolition of a school, I think that's where we also need to be very concise on what that contractor is gonna do. If that contractor is responsible for removal, then that contractor is responsible for removal. Or do we have to address everything that's
Right.
being demolished?
And I think, I'm sorry, and I think that was one of my questions about the new contract too, because I didn't see the language that we need to make sure that we have board policy and statute written on there, I guess, so in 8, 12, 13 years down the road, we're not doing this exact same thing, that it would be better if that were written on there, because we do have board policies, we do have statute that we have to follow when we delete any kind of fixed assets. So should that not be looked at? Should the contract, are we nitpicking now? Should that not be looked at to have that policy written on there?
So I just passed out, actually, Mr. Cole and I sat down and basically wrote a corrective action plan for our district, because we have not heard back from the state auditor's office. Well, we don't know how long that's gonna take, and we wanna take action now. So, I've given you this, but the last 2 pages of the handout that I just gave you is actually the scope of work and the contract that we executed with the contractor. And the number one thing on here is the removal and disposal of the existing synthetic turf and infills off-site. And that's on both the scope of work and then on what he contracted with. You know, he has presented an interesting question, which is yet another thing that we are gonna submit to the auditor for clarification. In a email correspondence with Mr. Cole, the contractor specifically states that it was his understanding that when he removed, it is his belief, yeah, thank you, that the RFP effectively transferred title to the existing turf and infield to him to demo and dispose of off-site by any lawful means we saw fit, which he felt included allowing community members to take it if they wanted it. I've got to send this letter to the state auditor, and I'm going to present it to our own district auditor as well, because I mean the contractor may be his thinking may not be correct. I don't know that, but it's certainly something that I would like clarification on from the state auditor's office. So I was waiting for my computer to come back to life to be able to submit that, but I'll be sending that tomorrow to the state auditor's office, and I'll be curious to see what he says about that. Because I'm not an auditor, I don't know, and so I will be very curious to see what he says about that and how he sees that. So just interesting little tidbit there, but I've provided you with that email stream as well as the scope of work and the contract that they executed. But I've also given you the 5 steps that we've identified in our corrective action plan. First of all, to self-report, which we did on August the 14th to the state auditor. Second, to remove any remaining rolls that were out at the Wool Bowl after all of this hit the fan. Remove those by our district maintenance people, move those over to Edgewood for potential future auction or whatever the state auditor tells us to do with them. Completing the third step we completed tonight in transferring the turf that we gave to NIMI. The fourth thing will be, and we have this training scheduled on Thursday with all of the administrators of the whole district. Will be given training by our CPA, by our auditing firm through AJ Bowers. We'll be doing that specifically in addressing what exactly is a capital asset, because I've got some questions about that. What are the state requirements over capital asset disposition, and then the district policy regarding disposition of capital assets. That information is available on our website, but as I said, that is not sufficient to consider training. And so we need to make sure that we have documentation that every single administrator in this district has had that proper training. And so we're doing that on Thursday in our regularly scheduled administrators meeting. And then the final step that we've identified is, again, to send that email thread to the state auditor's office for his ruling to let us know, is this guy off base, or is he spot on? Because that things hang in the balance on whatever his determination is on that. But again, that's not for us to decide.
So would he, soon as has the information been given to him, and did he give a deadline for when he would respond?
No, they don't ever tell you when they're going to respond. No, this information has not, other than the initial report, the self-report, but these emails just happened prior to our lovely little cyber attack, and so I have not had access to them to be able to send them to the state auditor's office. And so that will be done now, tomorrow, because my computer's up and running again. So I'll be sending that off tomorrow.
Okay.
But again, all they will do is confirm that they received the report.
Right.
But they don't tell you when they're going to reply.
So we don't do anything. We need to, just as a district, hold on and wait for their recommendation.
But these are actions that we felt like we needed, that would be part of any corrective action that they would require. And so we wanted to go ahead and get that done sooner rather than later, because, I mean, anytime you get an audit finding, there are certain things that they expect you to do. This,
Anyway,
we
yeah.
felt like they're going to tell us to do this anyway. We can show in good faith we're moving forward and trying to address what has occurred, and get it stopped and get it handled appropriately from this point forward.
And this is what I speak of with transparency. And this helps. And that's what I'm trying to get across to the board members too. When they come across anything that doesn't look appropriate, they need to be transparent and do the right thing and make that phone call. Not pass it over and let it go. That's not investigating. That's finding out. That's getting answers. And if it means calling our school board lawyer, that's why he's here. So that's what we need to do, is be proactive, be transparent, and get the information and go forward. That way it keeps us out of corrective action. It keeps us transparent, and that's what I'm working towards.
I have a question too. I think ahead, and I know that it is common and has been common practice to put the disposal of discarded materials. That's part of the contract to get rid of it. We don't want to fill up the Roswell landfill with Del Norte Elementary, and I'm really wondering what the ramifications are for this, because if we have contracts for Del Norte, and I believe that the disposal of materials, of discarded materials, is in that contract, is it not?
It would be.
It is, and so part of that is you've got an architect that helps you with the plan, and it helps you with the contract as well, and the language of the contract. So the disposal of those assets is typically, they're set aside, they're secured, and they're disposed of through one of the methods that statute allows. So there's about 6 different methods. We just demonstrated a method tonight. One of those methods is donation. We donated that to the New Mexico Military Institute, and that's a proper disposition and disposal. So we can take that asset off the books. Same thing with the disposition of various obsolete items from construction. Now, of course, we haven't started demoing Del Norte yet, but in past construction projects we have, and we've written off those assets as part of the demo, as part of the contract, and we're also partially insured through that contract by our architect and the language of the contract.
So we have done that in the past.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the take-home message here is I think we need to know where we draw the line, so we do not run into this issue when Del Norte.
And see, I think take-home message is transparency.
Well, yeah, of course, transparency. I mean, Mona, we're all transparent here. There's nobody here that's not transparent when it comes to anything.
Yeah, I'd like to say a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So windows have 2 sides. 2 sides to a window. Transparent windows, you can see right through them. But if what you're doing is constantly reaching to the other side of the window and making sure somebody else is cleaning it, your side of the window is getting dirty and it's still not transparent. So it takes both sides of the window to be transparent. And I do believe that the most transparent person in this room tonight was Bobby Viejas. And I'll tell you why. Because you looked at 22 people and you said it's about politics. And I believe that's what 90% of this is about.
Yep.
And I'm sorry that it's about that, because it should be about children.
That's right.
And I'll end with that. Anything else? Then this is the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Kirk, second made by Mr. Sanchez. Whole roll call.
Alan Gay.
Yes.
Ruben Sanchez.
Yes.
Kathleen Pittman. Yes. Mona Kirk.
Yes.
James Edwards.
And it is 7:25.
Do you want the board book back?